Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar by PPC Ninja. Today, we're going to be talking about Amazon's bidding controls. My name is Ritu Java, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler. And together, we manage PPC Ninja. We offer Amazon PPC tools as well as services. Now, one of the things we've noticed in the space is that sellers are experiencing somewhat of a tools burnout. They're trying different PPC tools and not getting the results that they want. We strongly believe that a tool is only as good as the underlying foundation, which means that your strategies have to be sound in order for the tools to work, which is why we also offer PPC services. So today's goals are basically to talk about bids by placement. It's the ability to change your bids depending on where your ads are shown. And we are also going to be talking about dynamic bidding, which is something new that Amazon launched at the beginning of this year. And we will wrap up with some strategies and best practices around these two strategies. We try to keep our webinars pretty short, 30 minutes, because we know that everyone's busy. So let's get started. Now, over here is what's, most of you are pretty familiar with if you've ever created PPC campaigns. There's a section in the sponsored product ad creation process where you're asked to pick from one of these campaign bidding strategies. By default, as you can see, the option that's selected is dynamic bids down only. And we'll be talking about the differences between these three different bidding strategies. In addition, you can also provide additional bid percentages for different placements, such as top of search and product pages. So let's talk a little bit more about those. So bids by placement is a way for Amazon to say, hey, if you would like to bid more for certain placements, then we can show your ads in those placements, if you're willing to pay that extra money. So it's a way for you to be able to win the bid when there's a competition and you are basically competing for opportunities. And the higher you bid, the more likely it is that your bid would be picked for the auction as compared to some of your competitors. So let's see what that actually means. Now, there's three types of placements that are available to sellers. The top of search, which is primarily the first two ads that you see, above the fold, but below the headline search. So this is the headline search. It is a part of sponsored brands placement. Whereas these two, the ones in orange, are what we call the top of search. Then there is rest of search, which is, search results based on keyword searches, but not at the top. So it's anything below the fold, as well as, what I mean by below the fold is below the top of search sponsored placements, as well as any other pages on Amazon. So page 2, page 3, page 4, all the other search results pages are, clubbed under rest of search. And then we have product pages. We're all familiar with product pages. Like, these are the pages where the product is described as the listing, right? And somewhere in the middle of this page, or sometimes even on the right rail, there are some additional placements where you see competitor ads, and that's what Amazon refers to as product pages. Now, like I said, this particular bid by placement is for when there is a competition between your product and other products. So just to define the rules for bids by placement, in Amazon's own words, if you choose to set bids by placement, then bids will be increased by the specific amount when your ads compete for opportunities on those placements. So if there are 5 bidders and your bid percentage is, let's say, 300% or whatever, your default bid would be increased to that amount so that you are able to compete against those other competitors who may not have any bid modifiers for that placement. So again, as I said, this is a way for you to compete with others. The other type of bidding, which is called dynamic bidding, is not so much for comparison with other competitors, but a comparison with your own past, if you may. So it's based on the likelihood of a conversion. So if you have proven to Amazon in the past that this keyword wins for this product, with sales for this product, then you are more likely to convert for that keyword. And so Amazon is giving us the option now to bid higher when there is a chance of conversion. And it's also bidding lower when there is not a chance of conversion. So the three are dynamic down, dynamic up and down, and fixed bid. So these three bidding strategies give us as advertisers a little more flexibility in terms of defining like exactly where to put our money, so that we can control to some extent what the outcome of our auction is. So here again, getting into some rules, dynamic bidding rules for dynamic bids down. In Amazon's own words, they say, we'll lower your bids in real time when your ad may seem less likely to convert to sale. So any campaigns that were created before 2019 January use this setting. So Amazon never told us this, but they revealed this fact to us this year. But so far they had been using this strategy, which means that they will always reduce your bid when there is a less likelihood of a conversion. Now, the interesting one is the new addition of dynamic bids up and down. So it says, we'll raise your bids by a maximum of 100% for top of search and 50% for other placements. By other placements, they mean either product pages or rest of search. In real time, when your ad may be more likely to convert to a sale. Now, Amazon knows a lot more than us about, the buyer that is reviewing your product, as well as a whole lot of other, information, about your conversion history in the past. So they know how to match those two up, and they know the likelihood, based on their algorithms and their, technology. And so they're able to, decide whether your ad should be shown or not. However, when you do want your ad to be shown regardless, like, you don't want to trust Amazon fully and say, using this third option of fixed bids, which is, you tell Amazon, no matter what, just show my ad. I'm willing to take, the risk, and I'm willing to eat the cost. So we'll use your exact bid and any manual adjustments you set, and won't change your bids based on the likelihood of a sale. So I think, this kind of bidding strategy is good for when you're absolutely sure that this is the right keyword, or if you're sure that in this launch you do want to rank for this keyword, then go ahead and use this. But know that you're likely to have a pretty high ACoS, because there is no there's no absorption of wasted clicks. So if there's a bad click, then you lose that money. Okay, let's get on with the math, because we want to know exactly what happens when there is a default bid and one of these different strategies for bidding is applied. So first we'll discuss placement bid modifiers. So top of search, which now they allow an increase from 0% to 900%. And for product pages, they allow an increase from 0% to 400%. So if you have a $1 bid for product pages, and if you choose the maximum 400%, your bid will actually go from $1 to $5. So it's not 1 to 4, but it's 1 to 5, because they just add the increased amount to your base bid. So $1 becomes $5. And for the top of search placement with a 900% increase, your $1 bid becomes 1 plus 9, and so that's $10. So that's how that's the amount you're saying you're willing to bid. Now, in reality, you might have a lower cost per click. That's totally possible, and in fact, that does happen, because Amazon relies on the second bid auction, which is that you only pay a little bit more than what the next bidder is bidding. So if your bid and the next bidder is like far apart, then you'll never see, you know, you using up that $10 for each click. You'll probably be paying only a little bit more than what the next bidder is bidding. Okay, and then let's look at the dynamic, those three dynamic options that we just discussed, which are, you know, in addition to the top of search and product pages options. So in the dynamic down situation, which has been the norm like always, even before they made all these changes, dynamic bid will reduce your $1 bid to anything between 0 and 1 when there is a lower chance of conversion. Then comes the case of dynamic up and down, where the, you know, the dynamic increase up is going to be up to 100% for top of search pages and top of search placements, and it will increase up to 50% on product pages. So if there is a $1 base bid, you could go down to 0 for the down part of it, and for the up part of it, on product pages, your bid will go up 50%, so that's $1.5. And for top of search, that same $1 bid will become $2. In the case of the fixed bid, nothing is changed. Your $1 bid remains $1. And this is only, well, I'm just talking about the bidding strategy, but you could have this change based on the placement. So that's a totally different you know, modifier. And so now we're going to get into the case where we mix these two up. So we're going to talk about how we will, you know, combine all the different, you know, bidding options that we have together. So here's my scenario. I'm saying we are going to go for dynamic up and down bidding strategy, and we are going to have some modifier for placements, which is for top of search and for product pages. So for the top of search, I'm going to say, okay, between 0 to 900, and for product pages, all the way up to 400. For the dynamic up, we will go up to 100% on top of search. And for the dynamic up for product pages, we'll go up to 50%. So that these two are already baked into the bidding strategy, whereas these two, the top of search and product page placement, we can, you know, obviously we can change these numbers. Amazon allows us the ability to change these percentages. So let's just look at what happens to a $1 bid. Of course, the down case is clear. In the up case, I'm going to go over the product pages scenario first, the ones that are in red. So a $1 bid on a dynamic 50%, this case, with absolutely no change made to the, with the 0 option of the placement, your bid will change to 1.5 because you're only applying the dynamic 50% increase from this option. So it can go up to 1.5, but then it could also go up to $5 when they see the likelihood of when they don't see the likelihood of a change, so they're just going to make it you know, remain dynamic 0. But because you have the option of 0 to 400, if there's other competing products, you might actually spend up to 400%, which is $5. So $1 becomes $5. In the next scenario, where they are using the 400 and also the dynamic 50%, which is the max here, what happens is that the $1 bid becomes $5 first, and then a 50% increase is added to that. So that's $2.5, so a total of $7.5. Now let's look at top of search. Whoops, sorry. So let's look at top of search. And in the top of search scenario, again, base is 0. Jumping here, when nothing is changed for the top of search placement, but the dynamic 100% is applied, then your bid becomes double, right? It becomes $2. Then jumping over to this one, I've just marked these in gray for you to understand easily. When we're going for the 900% for top of search, and there is no change to the, based on the dynamic nature of the bidding, it goes up from $1 to $10. And then in the final case where both these are applied, where top of search is 900% and dynamic is 100%, what happens is your $10 bid doubles because of the 100% multiplier. So this is how it plays out. So a $1 bid becomes a $20 bid. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's quite confusing, or maybe not. So anyway, we've put together an easy to use bid calculator, and I'm just going to show that to you in a second. Here we go. So this is just a Google Sheets calculator that we've created with, we've just put in all the variables here, and these bids are calculated automatically. What happens with a combination of fixed bid at the top of search, what happens with a dynamic down at product pages, and so on in this grid. Okay, so let's look at a simple scenario of the bid being $1, product pages, no modifiers applied, top of search, no modifiers applied. What happens in this particular case, with the dynamic 100%, your top of search value of the bid becomes $2. And because the dynamic only applies 50% increase for product pages, your $1 bid becomes 1.5. Now let's look at what happens. We just did that calculation when this is 400% and this is 900%. That's how these bids play out. And now let's look at if you have a $2 base bid. Default bid is $2. In this particular case, your top of search becomes $40, which is surprising, but it's not. And it's also kind of hard to visualize how something that's bid decent to just $2 can at the 900% value become so high. It's because Amazon doesn't do this real-time calculation. So if you guys would like a copy of this calculator, it's really a simple Google Sheet. Do ask for it. We are happy to send it to you for free. Just email us at support@ppcninja.com. Okay, so now that you know that how these how the different bidding strategies and the bids by placement plays out, we are going to talk about a few strategies that based on the work that we're doing with our customers, we have figured certain best practices and strategies that we would like to share with you. So the first strategy when it comes to bidding strategies is to measure and modify. Now, what we mean by that is, people have to look at this data. I mean, a lot of us simply ignore placement information, placement data, but we really encourage you to have a good look at it for every single campaign, because we've seen that every single campaign performs differently. And here's just an example of top of search being at 60% bid adjustment, and the ACOS being higher than what we expected, whereas the product pages, the ACOS is quite bearable. But look at this, the number of orders at the product page placement is not that many as compared to the top of search, obviously, because a top of search gets the most eyeballs, it gets a great click-through rate, but it's not always the best, especially if you have a low margin product. You might want to be strategic about it and say, no, for this particular product where I have such a thin margin, I would rather go with the product pages placement more. I mean, allow for profitability instead of being aggressive without a reason. And so, looking at this data can give you a good idea of how you should adjust your modifiers. And we encourage you to look at this periodically. So you could either get this information from the placement tab within the Campaign Manager on Seller Central, or you could download the placements report, which is a really valuable report. And I really encourage all of you to look at that at least once a month. Okay, so adapting your strategies for bidding. Next, we come to segmenting your keywords by campaign. So what we mean by this is that we have seen a shift. We have seen a shift in the number of keywords that go into an ad group, going down from 1,000, which, people used to do keyword stuffing all the time. Like, all the ad groups were so crowded. Everyone would max out on their 1,000 allowed number of keywords, and then create more ad groups and more ad groups. But what we've noticed is that, even if you fill up those ad groups with thousands of keywords, not all of them get impressions. So that's such a waste, because here you've gone and spent a lot of energy and time and effort into doing your keyword research. You found great keywords, you've created ad groups, but they don't perform. They just don't get impressions. And that's because your budget, it has to be allocated across all these keywords. So Amazon will favor those keywords that have shown results or continue to show results, and they will continue to favor those keywords based on initial data points, early data points, and the other keywords will be simply ignored. So the trend now is to segment your keywords by campaign, so that your all your keywords start to get more attention and have budget allocation, and they are super targeted. Now, here are some examples of how you might want to separate all your keywords. And you don't have to follow, all of these or any of these, but these are just ideas based on your business and, what makes most sense to you. So single keyword campaigns, and by single keyword, I don't mean like one. I don't mean to say, go starve your ad groups, but it's a good idea to pick a few keywords that are super important, super relevant to your product, and go aggressive on those. Allocate a separate budget, and make sure that you win those, and that's possible if you allocate a specific budget and just keep those keywords separate from all the other ones. So this is a trend we've seen. Another trend we've seen is volume-based separation, which is, keywords that tend to get a lot of volume are the ones that actually eat up the budget the fastest. So if you mix up all your high volume and low volume keywords together, guess what? The ones with low volume won't see any impressions, or maybe just a few impressions. But the ones that are high volume keywords, they will get all the attention, and they will be allocated more of the budget. So if you separate these out, you can have a more intentional use of your bidding strategies. You could say, okay, for my high volume keywords, this is going to be my budget, and I would like to be shown more on top of search, whereas the low volume keywords, I would like to be shown more on product pages. And that's totally up to your product, and it's totally up to the campaign, but this is just a way to separate them out. Relevance-based separation. This is a way for you to, again, focus on super relevant keywords, keep them in buckets. They might even be themed. And, this would give you, again, more levers to kind of, take advantage of the different opportunities you have as far as placement modifiers goes. Another way to separate your keywords is to go with branded versus non-branded. Your branded keywords will tend to do much better always. And so, allocating a certain amount of budget and a certain bidding strategy to that also makes sense. Okay, let's come to strategy number 3, which is we recommend that you change your bidding strategy periodically. And we've just taken the example of launch. At launch, you do want to be aggressive, right? You're willing to, you put so much, effort and energy into, producing this product or bringing it to market. Now you want to make sure that it takes off, right? So initially, like the first 2 weeks or maybe even 3, we call it the Amazon honeymoon period, which, your product gets us, more advantages in terms of like more exposure by Amazon, and a lot of the historical data is kind of ignored maybe. So if you haven't, it's not going to consider a low sales rate, for example, say, sales velocity, it won't go against you. So you get this, benefit for the first 2 weeks of launch. And so it makes sense to, at that point, establish yourself for certain keywords. We have noticed that, when you launch a campaign, when something is absolutely new, Amazon doesn't have enough data. So when there's, sparse data, it's not a good idea to allow any kind of dynamic up and down strategy. Reason is that, in Amazon's own words, a new campaign with sparse information, with sparse performance data is not a good candidate for dynamic bidding. Amazon's predictive algorithms that optimize bids under dynamic bidding work better when they have more data. So clearly, it makes more sense for you to decide how much you would like to bid and then just go for it. So let's say if you want to go aggressive with fixed bids in a new campaign, that's a great idea. You could also do dynamic bidding and keep dynamic down bidding and make sure you put your max default bid that you're willing to spend, and just watch it for 2 or 3 weeks. And once it has become stable, when your campaign has become stable, you've got some sales coming, then you can decide to either go the dynamic down route, or you could go the dynamic up and down route. And I think one of the ways to decide which way to go is to look at the ACoS. So if your ACoS is really high, you might want to just contain it by sticking to the dynamic down only. And if your ACoS is really good, it means that you have a chance to perform even better. So why not? So leverage that and switch your campaign bidding strategy to dynamic up and down. Yeah, so that's it. In terms of the content of this webinar. So just like to summarize. So bids by placement can change your default bids dramatically. So we saw how a $1 bid becomes $20, or a $2 bid becomes $40 at the max limits in the extreme case. So you want to be very careful about how you do this. Dynamic bidding works better with more data. So when a campaign is new or a product is new, you would rather do a fixed bid approach along with a dynamic down approach. But once you have enough data, conversion data, then definitely trust Amazon's algorithm, because they know way more than us about how well we're likely to perform in front of a potential prospective buyer. And the third summarizing point is that you shouldn't assume that top of search is always the best placement. It's always better to have a strategy where you're looking at your break-even ACoS and you're deciding based on your margins and how much you can actually afford to spend where you should show your ads more. So sometimes those ads might perform better in product pages placements. And just want to give here like a very quick demo. Well, it's not a detailed demo. I just want to show you how we do it in PPC Ninja. So this is a demo account, and I just want to show you the campaigns view, where we of course have all the campaign data for various campaigns, but we also provide you bidding strategy. And we also provide you with placement modifiers right in this view. So this, if you know the bidding strategy information and the placement bidding modifier information, is really hard to find on Amazon's Campaign Manager. You have to go open every single campaign and drill down, and then go to a different tab and then open it. So here we have it like right here, and it's easy to search. So if, let's say, you want to see all your campaigns with fixed bids, you can just quickly filter on that. Or you want to see top of search, how many of my campaigns have a top of search bid on them, and you can change those right here within our UI. So that was just a quick note on the side. Please feel free to check out PPC Ninja. If you have any questions at this point, I'll be happy to answer. If not, definitely leave us a mail at support@ppcninja.com. We're also on social media, so you can find us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. And also we have an awesome blog. Please follow our blog for the latest information in the Amazon PPC world. And if you would like to see more content like this, please definitely send us an email. We like to keep our webinars super short because we know that you're busy, sellers are busy. So if you have no more questions, I will wrap this up here. And our website again is ppcninja.com, and look forward to seeing you there. Thanks. Bye-bye.